My name's Randy Rubenstein, and welcome to the Mastermind Parenting Podcast. At Mastermind Parenting, we're on a mission to support strong-willed kids and the families that love them. Hi, my friends. If you haven't listened to last week's episode, I want you to pause this and go back and listen to part 1 of my conversation with Michaeleen Doucleff, author of Hunt, Gather, Parent. And this is part 2, where we talk about the new book she's writing, all about technology and dopamine and tech addiction and all the things. You'll hear me share some real life stories about how I handle just like a day in the life with my actual humans in their early 20s who have, who struggle with all of this. I'm on the apps too much. I'm deleted the apps. I'm reinstalled the apps, and you get to hear Michaeleen's opinion. And she's writing a book, so she's like knee deep in all the research, and she also has a almost 9-year-old. So Rosie's now almost 9, and so she's not where I am. I've young adult grown children, almost one not fully grown, but 2 of them are kind of grown. And their life is their life. And we're a family that talks about all the things, and they're not, I'm not going to judge them or try to control them. We just talk about, this is our life, right? Like, we live right now at a time where the legislation doesn't exist yet to hold these tech companies accountable, and they're psychological wizards, and they know how to, it's easy to fall down that rabbit hole of I'm on it and I'm on it and I'm on it. Let's just talk about TikTok. So I do share some real life stories of, the conversations with my kids and how, what they kind of sound like. And there really is no judgment from me. I'm just, in many ways, I think with my young adult children, it feels sort of amazing to be that adult, to be that parent that I didn't have at that age, right? Like, to have kids that come and talk to me about the real life struggles, and to feel like they can tell me, and to know that, like, I'm not going to tell them what they should do, and I'm not going to judge them or shame them. Like, I'm just sort of here for them. And they don't have to be all alone in whatever it is they're going through. So we dug into that a bit, and we just had a lively conversation. So enjoy part 2 of my most recent conversation with Michaeleen Doucleff. When I was reading all those books and trying to learn as much as I could, and they were helpful for me, I really was educating myself. And so I appreciate that those books are out there, and I appreciate that parenting books are out there. I just think that people need to read there. It's almost like they need to have, like, whatever, the little disclaimer, like,
right,
please be prepared to do none of this when your kid annoys the shit out of you. Like, it's like when real life moments happen, because I just think that shame spiral that ensues for most people is super destructive.
Yeah. But that, again, is I think that's kind of built into the system, though, in some ways, right, Randy? Because, like, if you have a script and you have this person telling you what's right, that's kind of the whole thing of shame, right? Right? It's kind of, right? You have to have a book that's looking more at the kind of roots causes and the bigger picture, right? And versus, like, this is what you do, right? This is the right way. That's one of the huge criticisms of Western parenting throughout time, throughout the last couple hundred years, is that there's this right way to do it. And anything that breaks out of that right way is wrong and going to hurt your child, right? And I think a lot of cross-cultural parenting is like in the last 10, 20 years is coming in and saying, no, there's many ways this can be done. There, and many times it can have just as good or better of a outcome, right? To me, that was one of the most freeing things about like cross-cultural parenting was like, whoa, there's not a right way. No, there's not a right way. There's things
Right.
that every culture does on a very broad level, but how they go about doing it is all over the map,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah,
like,
in Tanzania, they're going,
oh,
That's
Tanzania.
my favorite.
I was just talking about going back there. I think in 2 years we'll go back there, but
I want to go with you. I want to go.
oh, I
I just have
gave
to. I have to hear them say, "Call you. Wait a bit." What is it?
yes.
That's my favorite
That's
part of your whole book. Like that made me. Yes, it made me laugh so much. I had to, and whenever I hear something that I love that just like gets me, I have to like in a movie or whatever, I have to like rewind and rewind and rewind. So I was like listening to that part over and over again. And because I read your book and then I was listening to it and I was like playing that part for Avery. I was like, Avery, you got to hear this part. Cause she was like, what are you laughing so much at? I was like, you got to hear this. It's the best. It's the best.
Oh, they're such great people. It's like, I don't know if I told you this story. I don't tell many people this story, but I gave like a massive chunk of money to them because like I gave back a basically half of what I made off that book, and
Mm,
and um, and I sent it at the end of 2020, and they make a lot of their money off of tourism, and they'd had no tourism during 2020.
mm.
So the guy I sent it to, and I didn't know this, and he wrote me back, and he was like, we were sitting there being like, what are we going to do? We have no money for next year, like because they have this trust fund to protect their land that they basically like pay for and stuff. So it's not money directly to them; it's to protect their hunting land. And so he wrote back, and he was like, and then your check arrived.
Mm.
And so he was like,
Cute.
I know. I was like, and he was like,
Mm.
you can come back anytime.
Mm-mm.
But right, like I didn't know
Mm-mm.
that, right? I didn't know, I knew it was just for their land, but I thought maybe they had an endowment or something, but it all came from the tourist money. And so
Let me
anyway,
just say this. That's why your book is so freaking good because you truly did write it for the right reasons. Like just
yeah, I
that
didn't want to make money
alone.
off of them.
No, that
No.
just that alone, that story alone, and you being you. I mean, of course you sent them half of what you made off the book. Like, but of course they happened to be struggling and were just wondering where they were going to get money from. Like, that's like some divine intervention shit right
I mean, it
there.
felt that way.
Mhm.
It was like, wow, but again, this comes back. We're going to take it back to purpose and meaning,
Mhm.
right? Like that is what makes me feel good at the end of the
Yep.
day. That's what like makes me work hard. That's what like fills me with serotonin and oxytocin and like these
Yep.
wonderful feelings and satisfaction. Not the book, not the money from the book, not that, I mean, to feed my family, but not the attention, right? Like it's that. It's because I had an
Yeah.
opportunity to help them, and I took it, and then it was valued, right? And I felt grateful, right? They had gratitude back, and like this is the
But you
cycle.
also yeah, but it's super aligned in my opinion because you also wrote the book because you you weren't like, "Oh, okay, I just have my journalist hat on and I think this will be not only a good story, but this will be a good book." You were like, "I just got an internship in parenting." Right?
Right,
From
right,
these 3
right,
different cultures, and I learned, I say in the book I wrote, I say, like, I'm a chocolate cake sharer. Like, if I'm eating a
right,
delicious piece of
right.
chocolate cake, like, I'm like, have a fork, ha eat off
Yeah,
my fork." Like,
yeah.
it's better, it's more delicious, we need to all eat this together, and you too, it's like, you're like, "I just these people just blew my mind and just taught me all that I was doing wrong and
Yeah.
why my kid was acting like a disaster. And now it's so different. And everyone needs to learn this.
Yeah.
You came from, I mean, it was all from a place of integrity, you know?
Yeah. And like
And
maybe that's what I'm trying to get at it. Like there's a lot of chocolate cake sharers, children
yeah.
that aren't being
Hmm.
allowed to share their cake.
That's right. That's
I
right.
think that's like, I see it, Randy. I see it here in our school that I bring a kid in that's like really struggling and really misbehaving and really like, and I give him a purpose or her a purpose, and I make it clear that I value what they're doing, and the behavior turns.
So good. You
Yeah.
know, if I think about with, you know, like without realizing that I was doing that, you know, when Alec was little and he was really, you know, he was hard. He was different levels of hard over the years, but the first 7 years of his life were pretty hard. Just a more in Eeyore mode
Yeah.
than not a lot, well, especially once like after a long day of school, like he'd hold it together at school and then he'd come home and he was just zapped. His nervous system was just zapped. And when, you know, so Alec was a week before turning 8 when Corey was born.
Mm.
And when Corey was born, Scott was a 2 kid guy. He was like, why on earth would we ever have a third child? Like, are you, did you like all of a sudden become Mormon or some other religion that has like tons of kids or Orthodox or what, like, why do we need more than a boy and a girl? I'm not understanding
Yeah.
this. And so Scott agreeing to have Corey was like, I like to say I had to like sign my name in blood. And one of the things was he was like, you know, I want us to have more help around the house. Like you and 3 kids and 3 kids and 3 different, you know, like I'm going to come home later and you're going to be stressed out of your mind. And so you've got to have a regular babysitter. I know it's not like
Mm-hmm.
such a freaking first world problem. I'm sure people are listening going, oh, poor you. It wasn't poor me. He's great. He was recognizing like we will pay someone to be your allo parent.
You
Basically,
need
that's what he
allo
was saying.
parents. Yes. I mean, that
Yes.
is allo parents in our society is paid. So, yes.
Yes, that's what he was saying. Like you need an allo parent.
Yeah.
So we were so anyway, I like to joke that we went through like 27 people in the first 6 months of Corey's life. Like, and this bitch doesn't have a problem firing people. Let me just say that. Like, I'm
Well,
like, you're
there's
watching
the
my
pack
kid.
leadership.
Yeah, to be a good pack leader, you got to be really good
I
at
didn't see
firing
a turtle
people.
there, Randy. I didn't see a turtle.
That might have been my dragon. Yeah, maybe the combination. I mean, and so
See,
I fired.
everybody has it in them. Everyone has it in them.
Well, when you know, I was so picky about people, so freaking
Mm.
picky. And if I'm going to leave my little teeny tiny baby that can't even speak, like I have to, you know, so I kept going through so many different people. So then I said to Alec, because Alec would tell me, I would have Alec, you know, always knew adults. He was always a great judge of character. He knew about teachers. He's just a highly sensitive person. So he was
Yeah.
such a good read on people. So I said to Alec, that's it. You're doing the interviews with me because a lot of times I see in gray, but you see in black and white. Like you
Mm.
very clearly always know
Yeah.
great person, not great person. And I ended up having Alec like that was part of his purpose was I was like, I need you.
Absolutely.
I need you.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you something, I would say to this day, like he always that was part of his identity. He was like,
Right. Right.
he was like, yeah, how could you not have seen that that person turned out to be a complete liar and a two-faced, you know, friend? Like I saw that in that person years ago. I was like, you did? Why didn't you tell me? He's like, I mean, I don't think you were ready to hear it yet, you know, and
I
that
think
did give him some purpose, I think.
what I see in in parents and what I've learned, because I mean I talk to lots of parents now, right? And like I do all these parenting podcasts, and what I've experienced myself with taking care of my mom is probably the worst thing that a parent can do to a child. I think in this, what we're talking about in this, like, helping not helping, there's one thing not
Mhm.
to allow the children to help, I think, or not give them opportunities to help and nurture that in them, and give them purpose. And like, that's, I think we can, in Western society, we can all get better at that. There's just no doubt in my mind, we all can get better at this. You maybe do some of it, but we can all improve, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a tendency with some parents to actually not see when the child is helping,
Mm.
because it can be very small, it can be very subtle. And one of the women that studies the Maya community that I was in Yucatan, she said this to me in an interview, and it went over me, but I've listened to her interview so many times that I like finally started to understand what she was saying to me. That, like, she says, and she's actually studied like European American parents versus Maya parents and kind of how they perceive children's actions. And
Mhm.
she says that a lot of the things that the parents, the Maya moms, will say, one of the questions she asked them is like, what did they do to help? Did they ever voluntarily help? And the Maya parents will list off things, and then in the European American parents will say no, they never. Most of them say no, they don't volunteer help. But then she told me, she said that one day I was like looking at these two lists, or I was looking at this list, and I realized I don't think the American parents would see these things. And so now you say, well, who cares? You don't see like a tiny thing. These are small things, right? And I wasn't seeing Rosie's small things until I opened my eyes to it. But what I've learned living next to my mom is that my mom never sees any of it.
Mm.
You know, it's well, what's kind of next, or can you help me here, or there's just, and I'm telling you, Randy, it is so hurtful to be sharing the cake and either have the
Mm.
person say, I don't want the cake, no thank you, or to not even see you sharing the cake,
Mm. Mhm.
right? And value
Mhm.
that. I think that this crushes kids because I think it crushed me. And I think it's like, because we perceive children as these need things that need us, need our
Mhm.
attention, need, right? That's the whole thing out there right now, is like there's a need that they need me to do something. We miss the fact that they're actually helping us and trying to
Mm.
help us, and they
Mhm.
want to feel needed by us,
Mhm.
and we're not
Mhm.
seeing it. And I know how it crushes me when my mom at 48, when my mom doesn't see what I'm doing. So I can just imagine that, like,
Will you give one little example of, like, something recently that she just didn't see?
I mean, for example,
Mhm.
like, was it 2 nights ago? 2 nights ago, I made dinner. We made dinner. I made dinner. We made dinner. Rosie and I made dinner for everybody. We walked over. We to her house. She lives across the street. We helped her walk over. We helped her sit down. We helped her get in the chair. We got her water. We like, that morning I brought her breakfast, or Rosie did. Rosie does a lot. Matt does a lot. It's a coordinated effort.
Mhm.
It's definitely a teamwork. When I say we, it's all of us. Um, I walk her back to the house, helping her get ready, kind of switch out her oxygen. So I go back, we're at her house, and then I kid you not, Randy, she starts telling me stuff to do. Oh, can you go like do this? Can you? Oh, but don't put it there. Don't put the wire there. Like, I'm helping her fix her oxygen, and she's bossing me around.
Mm.
So I can imagine in my mind,
Mhm.
as a small little girl, me trying to help her in my
Mhm.
clumsy way, and she's bossing me around.
Mhm.
Can you imagine
Mhm.
how that feels?
Mhm.
And I said, Mom, please don't. This is disrespectful. I said, this is disrespectful. I'm helping you and you're bossing me around. Like, this is really disrespectful. And she said, well, I just need your help, Michaeleen.
That's so good. That's so good that you were like, "This is disrespectful."
But then she said, I need your help, Michaeleen. Do you understand what this statement is saying?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm. Mhm.
completely unseeing,
Dismissing. Yeah. Mhm.
not
Right.
even, just completely not even seeing it,
Mhm.
all of the stuff my family has done for her. She was
Mhm.
basically implying that I wasn't helping her.
Mhm.
And I said to
Mhm.
her, I said, "Mom, I am helping you." And I
Mhm.
walked out the door and it
Mhm.
was done. And the
Mhm.
next day I came there in the afternoon and she was, the point being is
And then,
that
and when you came the next day, what did she say anything?
no. And I
Mm-mm.
wasn't there to argue with her. It's just,
Yeah.
and she basically everything that she did with me at 48 is exactly what Lucia Alcala, the woman who studies European American parents, and was telling me that the parents can't see what the children are doing to try to help. They're small things,
Mhm.
right? I
Mhm.
can go back and grab the list, but she was like, I don't think American parent would like notice this or even.
Mhm.
So one parent I was helping the other day, she said that the children just never help. They never. And I was like, really? They really never do anything helpful.
Mhm.
And she was like, well, when we're in the grocery store, they quickly help me put all the stuff onto the conveyor belt because they think it's fun. And I was like, ding, 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 ding.
Mhm.
And I said, do you thank them for that? Do you acknowledge that they've done this? No, because they're doing it because it's fun.
Yeah, I knew. I knew.
No,
Yeah.
they're
Right.
not. Yes, they are doing it because it's fun, but
I
they
knew
are
she was going to
also
say that.
helping you.
Mhm.
Right? So it's a
Yeah.
perception of the child. Now, come back to the 48-year-old Michaeleen. How does this make me feel to be treated this way? I'm putting the groceries on the conveyor belt, and my mom is saying, I need your help.
Mm.
Or like, you're doing it because it's fun.
Mhm.
It's
It doesn't count.
crushing.
Right. It doesn't count because you're doing it for you. You're doing it because it's fun.
So
That's
let's
so.
go back to what we
Yeah.
talked about earlier, that we
Mhm.
think helping is a sacrifice.
Mhm. Mhm.
It only counts if it's a
That's right.
sacrifice.
That's right.
You didn't believe
That's
me when I
right.
said that, but you just
That's right.
confirmed it. And therefore, but it's actually, though, helping the person that's doing the helping, and it
Yeah.
feels good. And why shouldn't it be fun? In
Right.
fact, if it's fun, you light up the whole dopamine circuitry and you want to keep doing it. And you find it rewarding, and you
But
start
it's
to learn in
also
life that helping gives you joy. And in fact, that's how you build strong relationships.
but it's also like, what about just being a appreciative, grateful person, right? And saying, like, regardless of whether the person meant to help you, like, who
Yeah.
cares what their intent was? If
No,
somebody does some
exactly.
right, if somebody does something that's helpful, like, be the kind of person that says, "Wow, that was so helpful. Thank you so much for doing that,"
Yeah.
regardless of whether they meant to help you or not.
Especially if it's your children.
Right.
Because they really want to help Taylor Swift. They really want to help you. They need to help you. It is a primal need to help your family.
Yeah.
And if we don't see it, because we think children don't want to do it, they want to play on video games, they want to play, they only want us to need them, or they only want them to need us, then we crush them. I'm telling you, we crush some of them because
Well, wait,
it
wait,
crushes
wait,
me.
but I think something just went through my head. If we only think that help counts if it's a sacrifice, then it sort of turns the child being helpful into a power struggle.
Yes,
Because
yes,
right?
exactly. That's
Yes.
the point.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
that's exactly right. If we change our, I mean, this is what I was trying to say in section
Yeah.
1 of the book. If we change our perspective on what the help is, then it becomes a gift to the
Yes, it's a
child.
gift. It's a
It's
gift.
it's
Yes.
a gift. And you know how good it would feel, the gift my mom would give me, if she tries and she says, thank you, Mom, Michaeleen, I'm so thankful for everything you do, and she's really
Mhm.
trying, but she's still like stuck in this like mode that the children are like, I don't know. But if we switch that perspective on what help is, then it becomes easy. It becomes a gift. It becomes something they want to do. That becomes something they're already doing, but you're not seeing it. I'm telling you, most parents, because I see it. and I didn't see it, and it becomes a completely different thing, and it fills this need we have. And it's, I think it really is like when we go around saying like we see each other, it's really seeing what the person is contributing
Mhm.
to your pack, to your team, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, there's no power struggle because one, you're seeing what they want, how they want to help you,
Mhm.
right? It's not you controlling the help so much as
Mhm.
it's them accommodito. It's them
Mhm.
bringing their desire, right? And so there's no power struggle there. And two, it makes them feel good. How, there's no power struggle there, right? It's like really, I mean, this whole idea of like helping as a sacrifice really flips this around. Helping as a sacrifice, and two, children don't want to help. And three, I would say their what their actions are is them not trying to help. I don't know if I've told you the story of the little girl balling up the clothes.
Mm-mm. I don't think so.
This came out after my book came out, so it wasn't in it. There's a study from this woman, Lucia, that told me that she thinks that American parents couldn't see what the kids were helping. Um, in the study, they interviewed the moms in Los Angeles, European American moms, and Maya moms in the Yucatan, in the same village, and they asked, "Do your toddlers help? And what do they do?" And they give them this scenario of like the toddler comes and you're doing the laundry, and the toddler comes and starts throwing the clothes around. What do you do? And one of the moms in the Yucatan says something like, well, she's like, I can tell she's like balling up she's one time the kid was the toddler was balling up the clothes and throwing them. So she was like doing like kind of like just creating a ball and then throwing them. And to me, as an European American mom, I would see that as playing,
Yeah.
right? Making a giant mess, right? But this Maya mom said she's trying to fold the clothes
Mhm. Mhm.
and put them away.
Mm.
And maybe she was actually, right? Because to her little eyes, folding the clothes and putting them in the drawer kind of looks like balling up the clothes and throwing them. Right? I mean, you could see how, like, in broad strokes, it could be that. It could be this little girl's
Yes.
trying to fold the clothes and throw them into the.
Right.
And
And
I.
it's what, like I like to say, what we focus on grows. So if you could
Exactly.
if you could focus on this little 2-year-old being helpful, and it turns
Trying,
into
trying.
she's trying. She's
She's
trying. Look
trying.
at you trying.
She's
You look
folding the
at
clothes.
you
Yeah,
helping mommy.
right.
Look at you.
And then the Maya mom says, I'm so excited she's interested in folding clothes.
Yeah.
And then I start teaching her how to do it. Right? So there's a totally different
Yes.
mindset of like, this is
Yes,
what I'm
it
saying, like
is.
we wouldn't see it. Right? Because I would not see that as helping, right? But so once I read this and I started looking for it with Rosie when she was like 4, 3, 4,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
and I could see it. Like one time she made a giant mess in the kitchen, and I could see she was actually trying to like cook something. And if I, but with this new mindset, I could see it, right? Or one time she did something, and Matt got really angry, and I said she was trying to help, but she messed up a little bit. And
Just a
it's
little bit.
like, yeah, right, exactly. And it's like, and then you're right, like once I could see it, it was like, well, wait, she wants to help me, or let me show her how, instead of getting mad at her or
Right.
pushing her away, right? So there's that mindset too. Like, can we see? Because I'm telling you, Randy, they have just as much desire to hug Taylor Swift and kiss them as that desire isn't bigger than their desire to help Taylor Swift. I'm telling you.
I agree. I think when they're vying for Taylor Swift's attention, give your eyes on me, meaning I want you to notice me, see me, all the things. I think it's actually a sign that we've got some turtle honey badgering going on. Like, I think that it's a kid that hasn't had, like, the mom who's like, no, she's really trying. She's just trying to she's folding the clothes. Like now I need to just take the time to show her, meet her where she's at.
Give her
And if you're
purpose.
right, and
Teach
give
her
her
purpose.
purpose. But I think when you have a kid that's like, always wanting your attention, it
They need
chances
purpose. They need responsibility. I'm telling you, they're bored. They're
I think
bored.
I think a lot of times they feel bored. I think a lot of times they also like even when people think they're giving their kids their attention all the time or they're with them all the time. I mean, you're writing a book that is about screens right now. I mean, I don't think many people admit how much their attention is on their phone. And so it's
Yes, I
that
think that is
the
very, very true. But
right?
how
And
can
so
you
I
like give right? I mean, how can you give your child a purpose if you're not having a purpose that's like in real
That's
life
right.
in the moment,
If your
right? You
purpose
can't.
is social media, I mean, and I don't think, look, nobody's admitting that. I mean, no, people aren't admitting it, but I
I
think
think
that
a
it's
lot of
just
it is
like,
self-conscious, Mindy. I think a lot of it they don't realize how much.
yeah,
I mean,
how
I'm
much
being
they're
very
on.
serious.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah.
data, right? Like the whole point of these devices is to tap into a very unconscious, subconscious reflexive behavior. I mean, that is the goal, stated goal, that's how it works. And so I think there isn't an awareness of it that, like, I mean,
Oh,
there's
100%.
oodles of data that people
My
underestimate it
kids
by
were
like
just
hours.
look, my kids were just saying, they were just talking, you know, that we were all just home together before Corey left for college, and they were they were all talking about people in their lives, young adults and beyond. Corey was talking about an internship, and he just did this internship, and the 28-year-old that he was working underneath, 28, so a full adult. Corey said he didn't even realize that, like, he would ask me a question, but I think he was just either trying to fill the space or do what he was told he had to do since I was his intern. But he would literally ask me a question and then start looking at his phone and doing things on his phone.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they all started sharing stories about how many kids and young adults that they know that it is not even on their radar. And I was like, and I, of course, I had to repeat one of my, corny ass sayings. And I'm like, you mean it's not even on their radar? People before technology, which whenever I say something that reminds them of when they were teenagers, they're like, ugh. But I was like, they never learned. They were never conditioned. People come before technology. They're like, stop, just stop right now. Like, don't
But
turn
it
this into this.
worked. It worked.
But yeah, but it's like mind blowing to them because even though sometimes they choose technology before people, it's not like, I mean, Corey goes through many phases of uninstalling TikTok and uninstalling Instagram because he's like, it's it's a little bit of a problem. I got to uninstall it for a little bit, get myself out of the habit. Like he's going
But
back
why
and
does
forth.
he reinstall it? This is the question I have because this is a compulsion then, right? It's like the definition of a compulsion. If he it like I read this too, like some kids will like 20, 30 times uninstall, reinstall, uninstall, reinstall. And I I think that this is when like they have to build, like Cal Newport says, like they have to build bigger fences. Like
Yeah,
you have to like
he's doing
say to
that.
yourself, my life and my feelings and my like my body and my mind are more important than this like compulsive cycle I'm running in,
Well,
right?
it's very interesting to kind of watch him do it because I saw him do this with video games. Like during COVID, the kids were playing tons of video games. He was playing that Fortnite, and during COVID, I was like, "Oh God, I hope." I started like putting some parameters around it because I was like, "I think it's becoming a little much." And then he just stopped it because I think when life got back to normal, he didn't want to play it anymore. Like he
No.
wanted to be with his
He
friends. He
figured
wanted to be
out.
with
He
people.
figured out that it was not worthwhile.
And I think the same thing when he notices when all of a sudden he's feeling like it's a compulsion. He's
But the
been going
reinstalling is what I'm talking about as a compulsion. Like this is the
because
part
I
I
don't.
really think is
But this is
interesting.
what.
Like why keep trying?
Well, I think for him, it's
It's
like
like an alcoholic, right? That like has decided
yes,
this is not, and
a
but I'm
little
going to
bit.
try it again. But then you right,
Well,
like so, like yeah, like to
but
me
I
that's
think
the
for
interesting
Corey,
question.
well, I think it's interesting just even kind of to notice his habits because he said because I'm not telling him. I'm just kind. I mean, he's 18 now, so like he's going to do whatever the
Well,
hell
I'm
he's
not.
going
I'm
to
just
do.
curious, like what is his
I think this is my. This is
rationale for it?
what he'll tell you. Like I know that he got TikTok back, but he hasn't reinstalled Instagram yet. And I so I think right now his rationale is only one, like until he feels like he's got a handle on it. I actually think until he feels like his life is more interesting
Yes, I think
than
that
going
is
on.
the. I
I
think
think
that
that's
is the
what he's
root
doing
cause
right
of the
now.
problem. Is he doesn't
Yes.
have anything to backfill
Well,
the
he didn't.
void.
He was so ready to go to college. He was so bored with his life. He was in a teeny tiny little school. He was he was busting out at the seams, and so now he's at college not knowing a soul.
Yeah.
And I think he knew, like, my goal is I'm going to college. I'm about to have,
Right.
22,000
Real,
students to
real,
choose from,
real
right? And
people.
so the reinstalling and uninstalling is I'm noticing that it's a problem. I'm going to take it off for a little bit, and then I'm going to bring it back and see if I still have this compulsion. If I have this compulsion,
But like, why?
am
Why
I
does he think that's going away? The device is made for him to feel compulsion and to put you in this like machine loop. And so it's very fascinating to me, like why he thinks he can control that when the device is made to make him do that.
because I
And
think he feels like if it given if his life is more interesting, he naturally loses the compulsion. I think that's his rationale. I don't
it's
know. He'd have to
fascinating.
tell
It's
me.
fascinating to me because it is
Mhm.
like there's a lot of data on it. The kids, girls, especially with social, like struggle a lot. They delete, they reinstall, they delete, reinstall. I mean, personally, I I do it too with Twitter. I don't delete it, but I spend months I don't go on it, and then like it happened this week. I hadn't been on Twitter in months. Twitter like messes with my mind, messes with my
Mhm.
mood,
Mhm.
and it's incredible how I have to relearn it because yes, like Wednesday I was oh it was the New York Times article, and I wanted
Mm.
to like get the woman like respond to the woman, although my publisher sent them the book, so I was like they'd already done it. I didn't even know it, but and I went on and and literally, Randy, like I think 30 seconds, I found something on there that just put me in a horrific mood for like 12 hours. Literally, like 30 seconds, and that's why I went off of it because it always made me feel bad. And so it's just so fascinating to me, like how deep this thing is in my mind for me to have to relearn this lesson over and over and over again. And it's like, why? I should put up I should just delete my account, right? Like I should just delete my. Why do I value this thing so much that I keep trying? And
Mhm.
because that's what the dopamine system is. People don't realize this. That all those dopamine hits is is lighting up your the value system in your brain. Is dopamine is the it helps you value things, not value things like um, I value world peace or I value the Democratic Party or like not these like I like big ideas. It's like what do I value in my life in the everyday life in moments. The dopamine every time you get a dopamine hit, you're boosting the value of this thing in your life. That's how alcohol works. That's how cocaine works. To the point where like eventually you only value the alcohol over everything else or the cocaine, right? So this is how social media and video games work. We just keep boosting the value of
Mhm.
this program in the person's mind to the point where it's the
Mhm.
highest value item and you choose it over the person standing in front of you. You choose it over taking a shower, right? So it's fascinating to me, like how this Twitter is like this value in my mind. It's subconscious. It's totally
Mm-hmm.
subconscious. And so it's like how TikTok is so valued in his mind, right? And I'm putting myself in the same place, right? Like that he reinstalls it versus just being like, the heck with this manipulative thing that I have to get away from, right?
Yeah.
It's
I
really,
mean, it's the interesting thing for TikTok is I think it's, all those little videos, TikTok has its own personality. And I think it's the videos, it's like, it's kind of like watching a lot of stand-up comedy clips, like
it's an
it's like,
emotional slot machine, or it's an emotional slot machine.
yes,
That is what it's
yes.
designed to be. That's what,
It depends on what your feed is, like for
but it's
my,
still, you've set it up to, like, whatever
yeah,
you've chosen, it's still an emotional slot machine. You are
yeah,
swiping because you don't know what you're going to feel next.
yeah.
What
I
am I
think
going to
for,
feel next?
yeah, yeah. I think he's
Good,
searching
bad,
for
in
joy.
between?
Yeah. I think it's like the joy hunter, because if he's not having a lot of joy in his real life, he's looking for, Corey has a really cute sense of humor, and he's always looking for hilarious content. And so I think it's like a joy, like, yes, he's looking for that
Which would
joy
be
clip
like
type thing.
totally fine if the algorithm said, because the algorithm knows what he's looking for. Number one, the
Mhm.
algorithm knows exactly what he wants to see.
Mhm.
Exactly. And it
Mhm.
would be totally fine if the algorithm said, Corey really wants joy. Let's give him joy. I mean, I'm being the computer, right? Like, I'm at there,
Right,
but
right.
like that's kind of what it's doing. He wants joy. Let me give him a lot of joy. If the algorithm did that, he would leave. It would be a vending machine, and he would
That's
say, I
right.
want joy, and then I got my joy, and I'm done.
Right.
So the
More
algorithm
joy.
does not say that. The algorithm
Right,
says,
right.
how many videos do we have to give him that's not joy so that he will stay on it after we give him another joy video?
That's right.
It's right. It
You're
is
like
a vicious
hunting he's like
thing.
hunting for joy,
And
going
it's
through
not
right,
even right. It's not
right.
even random. It's not an intermittent reward that's random. It's an intermittent reward that is programmed for Corey.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, probably Corey, stays on the device the longest if they feel frustration.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so
Just
it's
hunting
probably
for the
a
joy.
yes, it is probably a
Yes.
frustration device, because that's a maximal time on machine. That's what they call it in Vegas, time on machine. Like YouTube calls it watch time on device, right? Is actually causing kind of frustration. So
That totally makes sense. Wait, when is this book coming out? Did
I'm almost
to
done.
read it.
Oh my god, Randy, I have this whole new thread through it that's all
Uh-huh.
about building your child's designing and building your child's habit garden.
Mm.
You, as the parent, have the power that the tech industry would only dream of to design, and then build your child's habit garden.
Mm.
And do you want those flowers? Do you want those plants to grow up and bloom into satisfaction and joy and awe and fulfillment? Or do you want them to just grow these giant stems that never flower?
Mm-mm. Prickly cactus.
Woody stems, massive roots
Yes.
that like reach deep into your life and take over your whole
Mhm.
house, but like never form one bloom.
Did
That's
that
what
come
Twitter
to
is
you?
for
Did
me.
that when did that idea come to you? Did it pop into your head like first thing in the morning after a good sleep? When did it pop into your head?
It was like I was writing like 2 weeks ago. And I wasn't even gonna put it in the book. I was like, let me just like experiment with this. And then I was like, at the end of it, I wrote, and I think it's my job as a parent to build Rosie's habit garden, like design and build it. And then I was like, I'm done. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with it yet, but that's it. Like, and then I told Matt it, and he was like, oh my god, I have like chills, Michaeleen. He was like,
It's
And then
good.
I told the book agent, and he was like, I love it because it's like soothing,
Yes.
you know? And
Hmm.
so when you bring TikTok into your life, Corey,
Yes,
you're
Corey.
he's plant every time he reinstalls it, he's planting that habit seed back, right?
So true.
And every time he's on it, he's watering it, you know? And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that these habits are terrible to have ones that don't bloom. We all need things in our life that don't bloom. But it's like your whole life is
Well,
things that don't bloom. Oh, oh.
I
Not
think
Corey,
part of
not Corey.
also, look, I think part of what also develops a habit garden, and I've seen this with my older kids, is like when they start to build that self-awareness of like
Mm-hmm.
right now, I
Yes.
mean, he's only 18. So like right now he is noticing, okay, it became a little bit of a problem. And
Right.
like there's certain people that right now I'm trying not to see on social media because I don't like you with Twitter. Like he kind of felt like he
It
needed to
makes him
take a
feel
break.
bad,
Right.
right?
He needed to take a break. Right. So he uninstalls it, but then I said something about him uninstalling. He's like, well, I've reinstalled TikTok. I was like, oh, he's like, but not Instagram yet. And I was like, oh, okay. So like
And
he's
yet,
starting,
it's very fascinating. It's like there's something in him that thinks he has to have it.
but I think he's also like, I mean, because I've seen this with my older kids. And like when we start to talk about, like, even when something's still a little bit, because with Alec, it's more the video games, like his big pull
Yeah.
is the video games. And he even starts to study. He just did this like mini triathlon. So he's really into training for that. And he had two partners. And so he was having a lot of fun, real life experiences and things to look forward to and had a purpose. Like he was
Yeah.
training for this thing with a purpose, right? And and he said to
Mm-hmm.
me,
Yes.
he said, because he had just said to me like a month or two ago, he had said something about video games. And I'm just like always I was like, have you noticed like are you enjoying them more than you're enjoying being with people? And there's been times in the last, I would say even year, where he's like, I enjoy them the most. But
Mm.
if left to my own devices, like I have to have a lot of structure in my life, because if left to my own devices, I that's all I would want to do. And so it's my favorite thing.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
anyway, I heard him say like maybe like a month or so ago, and he was really heavily into this training thing. And he's like, yeah, I've barely been playing video games.
Mm.
And I was like, oh,
Interesting.
isn't that interesting? Like, so I'm also seeing all of them just even kind of like getting curious about their own habits, noticing them,
Yeah.
and almost like becoming the watcher a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah, and it's
yeah, it's kind
interesting
of
to also
fascinating.
think like of the different that joy and favorite and liking is different than wanting, right? Because the
Mm,
sentence you just used like, mix the both up into one, like well, not into one sentence, right? It's like my
mhm.
favorite thing is all I want to do, but everything you want, like that's how they made the most addictive screen in the world in Vegas. It was by giving gamblers what they want. Wanting is very, very different than pleasure
Yes.
and liking even. And these games are really games and social media are really made to maximize wanting, and they are not made to maximize joy and pleasure and satisfaction, because that makes you stop, right? And so I think it's but I think it's interesting. I was because towards the end of the book I talk about like interoception in helping kids, because I think it's something you can't really develop until you're teens, but helping kids like figure out, here's one way to think about it, and then I have to go make dinner. But
Yeah.
like there's one way to think about it, like what I'm starting to learn myself is that the pleasure of food is not just the process of eating. The pleasure of food is also the way you feel 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 2 hours. It's the feeling, it's this long-term feeling of like contentment. I'm good. Everything's good. I got everything I need. I just feel good. Right. And I think that like activities on the screen are very similar. And I think that teaching children to understand that this is how experiences in life should be as well. That they aren't just about what you're how you're feeling in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but it's truly generally satisfying pleasurable things. So food like sweets and cake and donuts, and they will not make you feel good 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, right? So I think it's the same with the screen. So it's like teaching children to not only notice how they feel during it, but how you feel afterwards.
It's like
Do you
what you
feel
said with the Twitter,
drained?
like 12 hours, like for 12 hours. And I noticed
12
that too.
hours.
If
12
I go on social
hours.
media and I scroll, which I don't do very often, and when I do it, even if like 10 minutes would be my max I would ever, and I notice like, ugh, immediately am feeling bad by the end of that 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, this feels bad. And then I get off. And then it takes me probably another 30 minutes or an hour to finish shaking off that. It's like an ick feeling.
Ick.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
like an ick. It's a heaviness.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing about that felt pleasurable.
It's the opposite of like an orgasm, right? Where the
Yeah.
orgasm you feel good for like days, or like, or at like, right? It's the opposite thing that's happening in your brain,
Yes.
right? And I think what social media, the trick that social media plays, I think especially on teens, is that, I mean, it plays it on me. So
Yeah.
like, I have executive functions. I'm not like,
I
you
write
know,
books
I
and
know it's like,
articles.
I like
I'm a
am an
journalist.
emotionally very mature person, but like,
Right.
I'm not, I'm not this super impulsive person. I'm just not. But it still does this to me. I'm just aware of it more than I think most people are. But like, um, it makes you think that you're going to shake that feeling, Randy, by doing it more. And that is the insidious thing, right? And I have that. Like, I had that feeling that night. I was like, I gotta go back on. I gotta find out more, because what it's tapping into is like fear. And
Mm.
humans, you know, dopamine is about wanting to survive. And that's why we want sex, we want food, we want water, we want salt, right? But we also want to learn about things that make us feel bad. We want to learn about our threats and dangers. So we move towards things sometimes that are like feel threatening or dangerous or make us feel bad, because we want to learn about it. That's how we control
Mhm.
our that's how we. And so it taps into this thing of like, if you stay on, you're going to feel better, but you're going to feel worse. And I think that this is why teenage girls have such a problem with it, because it ails them. It makes them feel like you're talking about. And it also makes them feel like the remedy, the antidote, is more of it, when
Freaking
really the
evil.
antidote is less of it, right? and,
I
and, and
mean,
understanding there's things in life that actually make me feel really good afterwards, right?
yeah,
And
well,
that's the bloom. The bloom is feeling good afterwards. The stim is the like process of what you're doing, and the bloom is like the orgasm, the satisfaction, the endorphins afterwards.
mhm.
And so that's like, I want to teach Rosie, not yet, she's too young. I mean, I say it to her, how did you feel afterwards? Like, how did that make you feel afterwards? Did that feel good? I mean, you've done it with me. Like, did you feel good after this session? Like, right, it's the same, right?
Mhm.
With friends, like, did that friend make you feel good? Did that like but
Mhm.
teaching that kind of, how does your body feel, how does it like, and then cutting out the things that make you feel bad afterwards, so you're not going to reinstall them. Like, this conversation is, I will probably go and like delete my Twitter account, because this is what I'm trying to do. And so that's why
Yeah.
I'm harping on Corey, because I'm working on this myself. And
Yeah.
like, cutting out the things in your life that don't make you feel good afterwards, and bringing in the things, more of the things that you do, and then you become a happy person.
Yes. I mean,
And your habit garden is beautiful.
the Havoc Garden is so it's so good, and, like, look, we're still like, exactly. I mean, I think it's cool to be talking about this stuff, and it's also, like, the fact that you're talking about it with Rosie, starting to talk about these things with Rosie at 9, I'm talking to my young adult kids about these things. Like, these are things that we're all struggling with as humans.
Yes,
A
exactly.
and, like,
Yes,
for
I
a
love
kid,
that.
for a kid that is Rosie's age, like, this is conditioning her. So when she is faced with, this issue in her life because she's got a device or whatever, like, it's not new information. It's kind of like my kids being like, "Oh, I guess they didn't have people before technology," and
Right,
they're like,
exactly.
"Stop." But they joke about it and we're joking about it, but I'm like, "But really, like, you're welcome. I did freaking brainwash."
Right,
Not that you're always
right.
choosing
No,
people before
it's
technology, but
educating them. You're
yes.
and you would and Abigail share, and lots of people would say you transmitted a value to them,
Mm.
right? You said my habit garden, your habit garden deserves a lot more people blossoms that
Mhm.
have people in them, right? And over blossoms things that don't blossom, which is a lot of technology, right? And like you transmitted that value to them. That's not brainwashing. That's good parent. That's damn good parenting, Randy.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'll stop recording on
Maybe
that
we'll
note.
stop there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thanks for listening today, guys. I hope you picked up some tips, tools, maybe some baby steps for creating more balance and boundaries in your life. And I just wanted to let you know, if you want to continue moving the needle forward in creating this for yourself, having a happier household, I want you to go to my website and check out mastermindparenting.com. We have 3 beginning programs, and if you need some accountability and more support, then please look for the one that would be a good fit for you. And as always, we're on all the social channels under Mastermind Parenting. On Instagram, it's mastermind_parenting. And periodically I do pop up on different Instagram lives, Facebook lives, where I give you teaching and coaching, and I love engaging with you live to help you help your strong-willed kids so that they can feel better, because when they feel better, they do better. And I love, love, love getting to know you guys. So thanks for listening. If you like this podcast, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Super, super appreciative.